It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, Light Forex Social Trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.
Good morning, guys. Beautiful Thursday morning. 8 a.m. CT, 7 a.m. London. Hopefully you are doing well. Plenty of things to discuss. That's why we are going to go through very quickly and we will focus on charts. Let's start with the risk warning, guys. First, please bear in mind trading effects on margin carries a high level of risk, may not be suitable for investors who can sustain loss some or initial investment. So please do not invest the money you cannot afford to lose. Seek education, gain experience before risking real money. However, past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Okay. So that's what we have. If you were listening yesterday during the afternoon meeting where we are covering Bank of Canada, we're also discussing about the risk on, risk off from the indices perspective. I've been talking about that I'm looking for a possibility to go short indices, right? But also I've mentioned that you don't want to stay short overnight, and I've explained what the reason. There was two possible reasons, right? Hong Kong cleaning the situation and something in regards to the US-China trade tensions, and boom, there you go. So hopefully you haven't stayed short indices over the overnight over the course of the Tokyo session. So what is behind the current spike on the risks within the risk sentiment? MOFCOM confirms that Chinese Commerce Minister Zhong Shan, PBOC Governor Yi, and Deputy Head of the NDRC Ning Jiz were all on the phone call with the US side, and they confirmed that they get back to Washington as early as beginning of the October for talks. Whoa! Let's talk again. Just guys, in that point, let me say one thing. It's early October, so it's still well above 1 year towards the US election. No, probably there are not gonna be an agreement. Maybe even we are going to see some, more tariffs, right? Then probably around the December or January 2020, we might see another talks. And then some kind of the confirmation of the agreement may come around, well, I would say if we want to pump that towards the election, the agreement is going to be around the June. Anyway, okay, let's stop here. Of course, information about that being used by algos to pump market more to the upside. In that case, is a dollar Chinese yuan, so of course dollar is losing the ground versus Chinese yuan, testing and trying to move back below 714. Of course, in that case, the more important information is where we are going to be at the end of the day. The next possible demand is around the breakout point, and here we are talking about the 710, right? And if that's not going to hold, the next is half of the range from the mid of August, 13th of August. There was a range between 710 and the low was 6. So we are talking about the 7005, right? As of now, sentiment is very positive, right? So if sentiment is very positive, so let's have a look where we are from the particular currency pair we were discussing yesterday because of the Bank of Canada rate decision. So in that case, if risk is going to hold the way we see that right now, so we were discussing yesterday that if we are going to get the close above 80 on the CAD yen, that might be some kind of the setup for a little bit more rally, right? So, you know, risk is on right now because of this China-US talks in early October. So we have like 1 month to try to pump as much as we can towards these conversations, right? And yesterday we had Bank of Canada, right? And there was no signs, and I've been wrong. There was no signs that Bank of Canada is going to follow Fed. So no signs of the cut in October by 25 basis points or more, right? So that was one of the reasons of the Canadian dollar rally yesterday. If we are going to try to connect all of this, right? Let's assume nothing wrong is going to happen within the next few days. So really, that might be the setup that we might see some manipulation over the course of the September, which is gonna to be explained by the hope towards the talks between US and China in early October. So let's have a look what we have here from this CAD yen perspective. Let's start with a weekly chart. The thing is, as I mentioned, we got back above 18. That's positive sign. That might spur the rally towards from the weekly chart perspective. We have some kind of the channel. So this 80, the close above 80 might spur the rally towards the top of that channel, especially that we, as you see, we hit some stops below the bottom of the channel, right? So in that case, rally towards 82, as we discussed yesterday, could be the case. 82 is also the horizontal levels, and in that case, when we are talking from the daily chart perspective, that the level somewhere here, there you go, right? So that's the possible target. Now we would like to have as good as possible risk reward ratio. So let's switch to the lower time frame. Let's switch to the hourly chart, right? Of course, it's not gonna work 100% of the time, but we have to wait for some kind of the pullback. So let's try to make it. That was. Let's not take the extremes into the consideration, and let's try to work with that. Let's assume that's the consolidation, and we are, from the intraday perspective, we are around the top of that consolidation, right? So what we usually do, let's have a look where we have the midpoint of that consolidation, right? Around 1820, 1815. Okay. So that's how it looks from, at least from my perspective. Also if, oops, sorry. Yeah, and from, jeez. also trying to find the around these levels, the points were touched the most often. All right, so something around 80 20, 80 15 and psychological 80 level, right, based on this consolidation. So we know where we are. So let's have a look at latest price action, and let's see where we have the biggest possibility, or some levels, untested levels, when we are talking about the current price action. So what I see here, I see this base right over here, okay, because it's the place from where we took out this latest weakness, right? Hopefully that's clear, right? And that's top of that level, right, is around 79.85, so a little bit lower than what we discussed. So trying to summarize, looks like a retest of 80, psychological 80 plus minus 10 pips. It's where I'm going to look for opportunity to try to go long, right? So waiting patiently, because the thing is that if we are going to get back towards 80, and we are going to target 82, meaning that we have two figures to the upside, so we have some kind of the space to try to work with our stop, right? And of course trying to find the best entry from the intraday perspective, meaning that I'm going to try to have this distance between entry and stop a very, very, very narrow. So for now, when we are talking about the CAD yen, I'm waiting for some kind of the pullback. Also, we have to remember that we have some Canadian news coming tomorrow, and I'm going to talk about this. In a second, right? So looking for a pullback on CAD yen towards 80 plus minus 10 pips, and then we'll try to join the party. The target is higher towards 82.20. We will see. Now, I've mentioned, because one can argue, oh, it's 80.60, we are not gonna get that deep pullback, because if we are gonna get that deep pullback, meaning that it might be again, we might fall below 80 and stuff like this, right? But you have to have some plan instead of the claiming, oh, falling, rising, oh, I didn't get in. You don't have to be 100% of the time in the market, and you don't have to be 100% of the time right. It's all about how you are managing your positions, right? So I'm waiting, because there are two risk events for the Canadian dollar, right? First, it's an oil price, and when we are talking about the oil price, it's worth to mention that yesterday the private API data was not good when we are talking about the higher levels here on the oil, right? So the private API data was in favor of bears, and we saw the move lower. We saw the spike, as you can see, during the Asian hours. We saw this manipulation with stop counting here above yesterday high, and we are falling lower right now, okay? So that's of course not good sign. The second thing is that we are going to get either confirmation or no when the official EA data will hit the market at 5 p.m. CT, 4 p.m. London today, and it's today because of the longer holiday in US. So there was a publications one day later. The next risk event in relation to the Canadian dollar. The next risk event into the Canadian dollar is Friday and tomorrow, and we have not only non-farm payrolls out of the US, but we have the job market out of Canada, right? So it's worth to watch carefully. We might see this type of the price action where we are going to have a cat yen pullback. So I'm not worried that market will rally from here towards 82. I'm not gonna be in, because even if that's going to happen, there are gonna be plenty of other opportunities on the market. So waiting patiently, especially that right now we are simply testing top of the range. So pullback from here might be something natural, right? So that's how I see the things on the cat yen. Let's have a look. USD CAD. I've been wrong trying to trade the USD CAD long side. We created the plan. I've been stopped. I followed the plan, but been stopped. Right now, where we are right now, we are testing possible demand based on the daily chart. Let's make some cleanings here. So looks like it was the failure around the top of that consolidation. So very quickly we moved lower towards the bottom of that consolidation. Some stop hunt might be the case. So let's check where is the 50% of that zone, right? In that case, that's gonna be, maybe we are going to finish the business towards 32, right? So based on this swing low, finishing the business, that might be the case for us. So 32, 31.80, where I'm going to look again in case of some failure here, right? So stop hunt and eventually reversing. So the 50% of that demand based on the daily chart, that's what I'm gonna to look for. In case of the reverse on the Canadian dollar. So meaning that if we are going to switch to the 1 hour chart, right, that's clearly visible possible over under pattern. So we will see what's going to happen here in that time on USD CAD. So again, thinking about the long Canadian dollar, I'm talking about the CAD yen. Thinking about the short Canadian dollar, I'm talking about the USD CAD. So it's worth to watch in my opinion. All right, so that's first thing related to the risk on, risk off situation. Actually, risk on right now situation on the market. The second thing, and we will move from the FX market for a while towards the indices. In that case, Nasdaq, and this pre-market futures spike towards our supply we discussed for quite some time. So finally we took the stops, we took out the stops, so there is some short squeeze. We took out the stops based on this previous highs, and we hit finally the levels we were discussing, right? So we hit the previous demand, which pushed us higher. That's the first thing, as well as we hit the levels related to this previous supply. We've seen this move to the downside here, right? So that's quite important from that perspective right now. And to be honest with you, I do expect this type of the price action. Now the question is that, of course, it's a pre-market right now. It's going to be good and worth to wait for US cash to open. And guys, we do have this educational live training later today, 2 p.m. CET, 1 p.m. London. You are more than welcome to join me. There are few news are going to hit the market. ADP is going to be one of them, and ISM non-manufacturing as a second, right? So we will see how it looks from that perspective. Of course, the ideal situation, in case we are going to see the pullback right now, the ideal situation, same what we discussed yesterday with S&P, to hit the pre-market high, right? So in case we are going to see the pullback, we might even try to close the gap and then hit the high, pre-market high with rejection. That would be the best setup I would look for that. In case you are a bull, that's your demand, not tested demand, right? But of course we are going to get back to Nasdaq closer to the US cash open. One more thing, when we are talking about this, what happened over the course of the Asian hours, is a situation on gold. The first thing first, what we have to know is that we are testing supply based on the weekly chart, right? In the previous week there was a huge rejection. I know that some of traders were already so happy to try to chase, based on the weekly chart, to try to chase market from the short side. Based on yesterday price action, they've been stopped out most probably. If you remember, I've been trying to trade short side of the gold 3 times previous week. Fortunately for me, I was like usually out around the entry, so it's much better than being stopped out. And but because of the what we see right now, right? Yesterday price action hitting the stops. Second day in a row during the Asian hours we have risk on. So I've been thinking that maybe gold is going to give up a little bit of the ground. The only thing I don't like is yesterday close compared to what we've seen on Tuesday, right? The close was higher. The rest would be fine. So from the aggressive perspective, I may try to take the risk, and if you are aggressive, then yes, that's what you are looking at right now, especially taking into consideration what we've seen yesterday. So anything in between 1550, right, the bottom of that candle, and to the left this falling range here, and in that case we are talking 1551, 52. So between these levels I'm going to try to take the opportunity again. I'm going to switch to the lower time frame. I'm going to watch very closely the price action in between here. That's the latest demand, right? And here, top of the range to the left side, so question of over under eventually, right? I'm sorry. So anything around the yellow zone, going to the lower as low as 15, 5 or even 1 minute. In case of some kind of the aggressive confirmation, I may try to trade from the intraday perspective, short side on the gold, right? Of course, I need the sentiment to hold, the positive sentiment to hold, and a little bit of the dollar bounce. Now, when we are talking about the dollar, the latest correlation was for quite some time, stocks higher, dollar higher, right? So stocks is higher, but dollar is not. So either we are going to break another correlation, or there are two another possibilities. Stocks will join the dollar and will fall, or the dollar will join the stock and will rebound from here, right? There are plenty of discussion about the Fed at further price action, right? There are a few guys like Bullard, like Kashkiri, Doves, right, saying that the bigger the cut, the better, and there are a few guys saying that okay, let's wait and see. Now, what is interesting, guys, that of course we got this ISM last ISM. We are going to get ISM in regards to the non-manufacturing and services, but we got the manufacturing ISM weaker, right, below 50. Yeah, that might be first piece of the puzzle for Fed. Okay, weaker data. Let's maybe cut, right? But if we are going to get the risk on towards the Fed, right, because of the current US-China situation, that's something, you know, it's against, because it's okay. We are talking, that was one of the reasons the Fed should cut because of what is going on there. So it's gonna be very, very interesting to see where we are few days ahead of the Fed meeting. Of course, we are going to discuss that stuff. So yes, I want this current sentiment to prevail. For me to try to trade the gold, I would prefer to have a setup around the US Open instead of during European hours. All right, so that's yeah what I would like to see. So yeah, practically indices, gold, oil down. USD cut, yen down. So when we are talking about the Canadian dollar, so meaning that we are talking about the commodity currencies. So let's have a look also on Australian dollar from the higher time frame perspective. If you remember, this week we were covering Australian Central Bank live, and we have a plan, right? We have a plan in place. So looks like the first part of the plan took place during the Asian hours, meaning I've been telling you there is no rush to try to sell Australian dollar. So first thing first, we hit this this morning. We hit the stops when we are talking about the high from the 8th of August as well as 13th of August. So this stops been hit right now. The possible supply based on the daily chart is a little bit higher. First is a supply based on the monthly red line is 68.40, right? And the daily supply is a little bit higher in my opinion towards 69.20. So we have this 70 pips range, and it might happen, depends on what we are going to get. For example, tomorrow when we are talking about the non-farm payrolls, right? What we are going to get today when we are talking about the ISM, non-manufacturing, and ADP, for example, right? So there is a little bit of the more space for Australian dollar to try to go a little bit higher, but somewhere in between 68.40. 50 towards 69.20, where I'm going to look again to try to fade that rally on the Australian dollar. Especially it looks like the market is looking for another 3 rate cuts by the RBA, so that might be very interesting and might put Australian dollar under pressure again. So let's have a look what we have from the majors perspective, right? Let's start with euro dollar. What I'm going to look for today, well, no change. I'm looking to retest the levels close to 1060 and a little bit above. So we are talking about this broken swing low and as well as this rejection from the 23rd of August. The green zone has not been tested yet. What's gonna be the plan? My plan is to either join from the intraday perspective. If you are more conservative, what you wanna see is you want to see the test of that level, right? But you want to see the daily close below. So you want to see some kind of the stop count on a daily chart. So the day today or tomorrow, the candle, you want to see this type of the price action, right? Something like this, right? So you want to have this type of the stop count close below, this type of the price action around the logical level, then that's gonna be the conservative setup, right? From the more aggressive approach, I'm looking for similar price action, but based on the intraday chart. So that's what I'm looking for right now on a euro dollar. So there is no change from the selling perspective. Also, there is no change from the buying perspective. Looking for this Monday low to be tested at some point. I'm not saying this week, but maybe next week, right? Of course, we have Lagarde as a new ECB head, and probably what she's going to do. The thing is, if she can do that successfully. But anyway, printing more and more, that's the case, and of course, it's not gonna help euro. But anyway, at this moment, what we are discussing for quite some time already, because of the channel on daily, I'm looking to sell rallies or a little bit bigger rallies, and specifically based on the price action we've seen this week, I'm looking to buy from the intraday perspective around the Monday low, right? Now, dollar yen spiked higher, hit few stops. We were talking about these levels, perfect setup, perfect short setup during the Asian hours. I've been sleeping at that time, of course. Perfect setup with stop hunt. Now, you shouldn't chase the market, right? Because we are testing Monday high. We broke Monday high, so that's the first level of possible demand. So it might be a little bit of the range between 106.40, right? Maybe a little bit below 106.40 and 106.80. And if you remember, previous week we were discussing bigger stop hunt based on the daily chart towards 107.30 and then rejection over there. That could be something I would like to see. Unfortunately, from the long perspective, our scenario with the bigger pullback and then rally didn't materialize. So yeah, it's the idea about this long actually is no longer valid, right? I'm going to try to make an update here. So I'm just going to watch dollar yen doing nothing right now unless we are going to hit 730 plus, right? And finally, yeah, Boris Johnson looks like he's losing on every front. But the main question here is if the Jeremy Corbyn is a better solution. You know what? Let's leave it as it is here. Maybe not try to joke it because it's not the funny situation if you are living in UK. With yeah, I do fully understand that, and there is a full respect. You know, it's not your fault that your politicians. But it's UK is not the only country, right? When we are talking about the politicians' failure. Anyway, let's get back to the chart because that's what is important. Pound went higher, but from the daily chart perspective, still some space. Now, to hit some stops even higher. So, and we are above the weekly open and Monday high. The pullback towards the weekly open might be a buying opportunity, but I think I'm going to, from the medium term perspective, I'm going to wait and see what might happen between 24.50 25. Intraday, it looks a little bit different. So we have the break of this weekly open. And then over the course of the day, we had the retest, right? So I can assume that this demand been consumed. So in case of the break of the current possible demand here, in case we are going to break this yellow zone and back below, we might start to activate some supply levels. And once we are going to break back below the weekly open, so the scenario with the retest of the Monday low suddenly might be realistic, right? And yes, it is possible. That's what I told you before. I've been expecting much higher volatility on the cable. So the unusual moves right now, nothing strange, right? So I'm going to watch very carefully. I don't want to chase the long side here. I'm waiting for a deeper pullback. And again, same as with Katien. I'm gonna be happy if I can follow my plan and the pound will reach some certain levels. In that case, levels close to the Monday low. If not, then I'm going to update my plan and try to find the new way to trade the pound versus US dollar. Because of what is going on, I'm a little bit off right now with the idea to try to trade euro pound. Let's wait the dust to settle, and then we will see what is going on there as well. So trying to summarize, this morning I'm focused on euro dollar looking to sell on test of the supply based on the daily chart around 1060 and higher. That's the first thing first. Watching very carefully current price action on the pound. In case of a move back below 22, I may start to look for the selling opportunity. Doing nothing with dollar yen, at least during the London session, watching for the US cash to open. So taking into the consideration majors, just euro dollar and pound USD. Taking into the consideration commodity currencies. Watching USD cut in case of the Canadian dollar sell-off, and I'm watching 32.3180 from the perspective of the stop hunt and rejection. On the other hand, if the risk on prevail, we were discussing cut yen, but there I'm waiting for a little bit deeper pullback, because we are trading right now 80.57, and I'm looking to buy around the 80 in the middle of the range we discussed at the beginning of our meeting today. Then I'm looking for a possibility to try to short the gold in between 50-52, all right, and waiting for the US cash to open in terms of the trying to check what is going on with Nasdaq. And yes, I'm looking for a possibility to sell Nasdaq, at least for now, because of where we are. Of course, the situation with US and China, and this information that everything is fine and they are going back to Washington at the beginning of October might be much bigger than what chart is saying. But let's have a look and let's check this this afternoon. So please join me 2 p.m. CET, 1 p.m. London. We are going to cover US Open live. That's it from me this morning. Don't be trapped. Have a great beginning of the London session and see you around. Goodbye, guys.